ఈ లాగిన్స్ మన అవసరం బట్టి మనం ట్రై చేస్తాం. హలో,
మంచిగా వస్తుంది. ఆడియో మంచిగా వస్తుంది. చెక్ చేసినావా?
డబ్బులు కొట్టాలి. బ్లూ కలర్.
హలో హలో హలో, మైక్ చెక్. సిగ్నల్ వస్తలేదు. హలో వస్తుందిలే. ఓకే. హలో హలో, మైక్ చెక్. హలో హలో, దాన్ని పెట్టేసేస్తావా?
Distinguished speakers, esteemed scholars, and dear participants. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the National Conference on Gender Equity in Urban India, Bridging Gaps through Policy, Planning, and Public Finance. This is being organized by Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies, Hyderabad, in collaboration with the Arun National Institute of Financial Research and the National Institute of Technology, Calicut, here at Osmania University. To begin this auspicious occasion, we will now have national song Vande Mataram. May I request everyone to kindly rise for the national. ranging from environment opportunities to concern related to safety, housing and safe urban services. Additionally, there is a limitation in urban governance and planning processes remain relatively which further limits the integration of gender perspective in the city development. In this context, gender equality in urban India becomes not just a matter of social justice, but a fundamental requirement of achieving sustainable, inclusive and agile urban development. This conference therefore provides an important platform to bring together academicians, policy makers, practitioners and researchers to critically engage with these issues. It aims to explore how policy, planning, and finance to bridge existing gender gaps and build more inclusive urban futures. Of the academic effort, research contribution, and thematic focus of this conference is to kindly release the conference winner. We will now proceed with felicitation of our distinguished guest as a token of our respect and gratitude for the valuable presence. Thank you, sir. We are truly honored to have such eminent personalities with us today. Now, it is my privilege to invite Senior Professor B. Srinagesh, Director of RCUES, to briefly introduce the Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies and provide an overview of the conference. May I request Professor B. Srinagesh, sir, to kindly address the gathering.
Good morning, one and all. Respected Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Kumar Molugaram Garu. Respected PP Anil Kumar, Sir, Director, CoEUPD, NIT Calicut. Respected Professor B.K. Pandey, Director, Arun Jaitley, National Institute of Financial Management. Dear dignitaries, colleagues and scholars who are present over here. It is a privilege to address this esteemed gathering at the RCUES on the critical theme of gender equity in urban India, bridging gaps through policy planning and public finance. RCUES has been established in the year 1970 to cater to the needs of municipal functionaries through capacity building, and it has 9 states under its office. Basically, the South Indian states, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, 2 union territories, Andaman Nicobar Island and Pondicherry, and 2 northeastern states, that is Nagaland and Meghalaya. So we take the need of the training capacity building of the municipal functionaries, right from commissioners to the ward secretaries. We give the capacity building training program, and apart from that, we have been into many of the projects and as well as the other training programs from the other ministries as well, like Ministry of Women and Child Development, and we have we try to give the capacity building training program for the all officials. And this since 1950, we have been building these institutions step by step. And when our Honorable Vice Chancellor was the former director of the RCUES, he has made a lot of, he has put a lot of effort in bringing this institution to a more visibility by way of conducting national level programs and by taking the participants to the field studies, basically to Indore because it is in the cleanest city of the country, and to other parts of the country to bring in the inclusivity of the urban development. And he has been instrumental in bringing collaboration with the NIT Calicut and also having MOU with the Mahua Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, wherein it has actually brought in the granting aid, and it has increased manifold from what was there earlier. So it is, I would say that the RCUES is catering in two sense about the urban needs and the urban problems, solutions to the urban problems. So when it comes to the urban aspect, urban India stands at a transformative juncture where cities are engines of economic growth, innovation and opportunity. Yet they also reflect deep-rooted gender inequalities that limit the full participation of women and marginalized groups. Despite progress in education, employment and political representation, urban spaces often remain exclusionary in design, access and opportunity. Gender equity is not merely a social aspiration, it is a fundamental prerequisite for sustainable urban development. When women thrive, cities become safer, more productive and more inclusive. However, challenges persist: unequal access to employment, unsafe public spaces, inadequate sanitation, limited mobility, and underrepresentation in decision-making processes. To bridge these gaps, we must adopt a three-pronged approach: policy reform, gender-responsive planning, and inclusive public finance. When it comes to the policy frameworks, it must have moved beyond tokenism toward transformative change. India has made notable strides with initiatives like gender budgeting and urban missions, yet implementation gaps remain. Policies must ensure equal access to housing, healthcare, education, and livelihood opportunities. More importantly, they must recognize the intersectionality of gender with class, caste, and migration status, particularly in urban informal settlements. Secondly, urban planning must be reimagined through a gender lens. Cities are not gender-neutral spaces. Women experience urban environments differently, whether in accessing transport, using public spaces, or balancing work and caregiving responsibility. Gender-sensitive planning means designing safe public transport, well-lit streets, accessible childcare facilities, and inclusive public infrastructure. Participatory planning processes must actively involve women, ensuring their voices shape the cities they inhabit. Thirdly, public finance plays a crucial role in translating commitments into action. Gender-responsive budgeting is not just an accounting exercise; it is a powerful tool to allocate resources equitably. With financial autonomy and capacity to invest in gender-inclusive infrastructure and services. Tracking expenditure and outcomes through a gender lens will enhance accountability and impact. Equally important is the role of data. Evidence-based policy making requires disaggregated data on gender, enabling us to identify gaps and monitor progress effectively. Collaboration between governments, academia, civil society, and communities is essential to build such knowledge systems. As we deliberate today, let us recognize that gender equity is not a standalone goal. It is integral to achieving broader development objectives, including economic resilience, social justice, and environmental sustainability. The vision of inclusive cities aligns with the global commitment to sustainable development, particularly the goal of leaving no one behind. Today, at this national conference, after going through a thoughtful discussion, we are going to discuss on 6 main tracks that will highlight the importance of gender issues in urban India. We have tried to bring in the academicians, bureaucrats, lawmakers, and economists for a better understanding on this theme. In conclusion, bridging gender gaps in India requires not only policies and plans, but also a shift in mindset. It calls for political will, institutional commitment, and collective action. Let us work together to create cities where every individual, regardless of gender, can live with dignity, safety, and opportunity. I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Molugaram, sir, for actually being a man in need. The words because in protecting history of University, we have the first joint register as a female employee. That is the history that he has created. Usually when men were given the opportunity of the joint registrar, but it was by his actions that he has actually given a top position for a woman. And not only that, he has actually included many of the women faculty members to many of the positions like academic administrative positions of the Osmania University. So by taking this stage as a platform, I thank you, sir, for being a man of word and a man of deed. So here, I would like to thank the Director of Financial Management, Professor B.K. Pandey, sir, and also Professor Jaitley, actually instrumental in bringing up this theme and the concepts regarding the gender equity in urban India, which has really been well received. And we have actually, sir, we have restricted focus group only, sir, not the mass, but with the class, and there are daily lectures that are going to happen on the six tracks. And at the outset, I would like to thank Professor Anil Kumar, sir, for actively involving not only in this conference, but also various other programs through the collaboration of RCUES and the entering into the MOU. Sir, we have got a lot of places and we have conducted training programs in Mysuru on urban planning, safety management and other urban issues. And really thank you, sir, Anil Kumar, sir, and also the team, Vivek Kumar and also Dipti madam, who have been actively involved in the programs of the RCUES. So I thank all the participants who have come all the way from different places of the country to witness this conference. And I thank each and everyone for joining their hands and bringing an important topic to this platform on gender issues and gender equity and gender equity in urban India. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the insightful introduction and highlighting the vision and objectives of RCUES and this conference. Now, it is time for the Chief Guest Artist. It is a great privilege to invite Hon'ble Vice Chancellor of Osmania University, Senior Professor Kumar Molugaram, to address the gathering. Sir, your leadership continues to inspire academic excellence.
Very good morning, one and all. Dr. P. Anil Kumar, the Chairman, Center of Excellence in Urban Planning and Design, NIT Calicut. Dr. B.K. Pandey, Professor of Practice, Arun National Institute of Financial Management, Haryana. Convener of this program and the Director of RCUES, Professor Srinagesh, Senior Professor, Department of Geography, Osmania University, and dear participants. Very good morning to one and all, and warm welcome to this national conference on gender equity in urban India, bridging gaps through policy planning and public finance. Very excellent topic floated. The greatest thing here is, this conference is jointly organizing a great kind of collaboration among RCUES Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies, and at the same time the Gender Responsive Budgeting, GRB Cell, Arun Jaitley National Institute of Financial Management, and Sangraha Center of Excellence in Urban Planning and Design at NIT Calicut. A great kind of collaboration, and in the present day context, many more the collaborative kind of works, maybe workshops, maybe skill programs, quality enhancement programs is taking place across the country is need of the hour. As rightly mentioned by the Srinagesh, this particular center, Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies, started in the 1970 and celebrating 56th year in a great manner, and imparted many trainings, thousands of trainings to the municipal administration and even the other departments. And recently we had a MOU with MAVA. Every year we are getting funds from Ministry of this Urban and Housing very regularly. They are really supporting in all aspects to grow the center. And at the same time, I am happy to share that recently we got accreditation from the CBC, Government of India, just 2-star, and very limited institutions in the country got the accreditation process, especially training programs. So after 56 years, last year I think, at 55th year we got this accreditation 2-star through this CBC, Government of India. So the third greatest kind of the collaborative work between NIT Calicut and Osmania University, and so many programs are taking up jointly for the sake of stakeholders, especially municipal related staff. And coming to this particular 2 days conference, it's a very good theme and in need of the hour, and every day some kind of discussions are taking place across the country on this topic. And gender equity, when you come to gender equity in urban India, so in urban India and rural India if you compare, there is a lot of difference between the urban India and rural India. So what is gender equity? So gender equity is nothing but it's like a fairness in opportunities and fairness in access and fairness in outcomes for gender, especially the women. So still there is a lot of gap in several aspects when you see the real time the examples. And coming to the urban population, especially in Indian context, the present population according to 24-25 is here 54 crores population is staying in the living in the urban areas. So the projected population by 2050 almost so this 50 crore population, around 36% of total population staying in the urban areas. And coming to this projection, maybe in the 2050 this population 54 population may be increased to the 95 crores population. So by that time parallelly the total population also may increase. Maybe it is reaching around 200 crores population. It contributes 50% of the total population, nearly maybe 180 or 190, 200 the expected population. And by 2050 every 2%, 1 in every 2% will stay in the urban areas. So this is a great kind of challenge, and normally the urban population will grow and migrations also will go maximum extent, but the demand for the housing, demand for the transport, demand for the water, and demand for the every aspect, the demand will almost double. Sometimes it is more than 3 times and 4 times. So some kind of preparedness should be there to face this urban population drastically increase. And when you look at this urban population and when you compare with the developed countries, in the developed countries context if you see, ours is very less. If you compare with the developed countries almost 70 to 80% of the population right now staying in the urban areas. So this is a common kind of phenomena because of job opportunities, because of the health and other kinds of the sectors, very good education, health and job opportunities are plenty in urban areas. That is why a lot of migration is taking place, and at the same time the urban population also increasing maximum extent. And women participation, if you look at in urban life, so obviously the education sector and the job sector and safety sector and leadership point of view if you look at, so still a lot of the improvement is required, a lot of gaps are there. And especially the urban female in education, if you look at in India, it is reached around the 70 to 80% of the education, and still some kind of the gap is there. It is some kind of gap is there. So that gap you have to focus and fulfill with some kind of great kind of policies. And higher education, especially the improvement of the percentage in higher education also increasing, the girl child, and especially if you look at the Osmania University, 60% of our PG students are girls. So that is a great kind of transformation, great kind of empowerment, women empowerment. So definitely, especially in the STEM sector, STEM area, these admissions are growing, and STEM area many students are showing a lot of interest. And at the same time, the biggest challenge is dropouts. Still, 5 to 10% of the dropouts are there in higher education, especially even degree level and PG level, because of the social norms. Still, some kind of sentiments and many other kinds of, the sentimental kind of, the things also influencing a lot. And at the same time, the marriages, say early marriages, and at the same time, the studying at degree, studying at PG because of sentimental, because of regional, because of what you call the religious and caste system. The early marriages, they're going for the early marriages, and the economics also, because of the economic conditions not supporting to support the higher education. Because of that, the many students, almost 5 to 10% of the students, they're going for the dropouts. The another challenging area is, the workforce participation. The female workforce participation in urban areas only maximum 25%. If you compare with the gents. So this workforce percentage has to be increased. Really, it's a challenging kind of thing. Policies definitely will influence a greater kind of, this thing. And coming to the salary point, wages point of view also, this is, they are getting, especially workforce point of view, if you just take example, a mason, those who are constructing buildings, there is almost 20 to 30% of variation of salaries or daily wages. So let us say a mason is getting, male mason 1200 and female mason only getting around 600 to 800. So this kind of parity and discrimination is there at different workforce sector, and this has to be addressed in a proper way. And this, when you compare with the global, this workforce, only 25%, but this is very low when you compare with the developed countries. Developed countries, almost 80 to 90% of the workforce is there. It's the greatest gap between developed countries and in developing countries context in urban areas. And the second challenge is education and employment is gap. So 80% of the, the students, or the girl students, they are entering into education, but the job opportunities are very less than 20%. This is a bigger gap. So something has to be done. Especially the quality education is a serious concern, because the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals, the top priority number 4, that is the quality education. That is seriously lacking in the Indian context. Only if you look at, the 100%, when you take into consideration, only 15 to 20% of the students only having skills and quality. So those students only getting, good quality jobs and any kind of job. So the rest of the people, they are not up to the mark because of the improper quality of education. We have to focus on seriously on quality education, and skill-based education is very important. Some policies to be drawn on this particular aspect. So one is the 80% education is there, but the education is limited to only certificates and papers only. So education certificates not providing the employment. That is a serious kind of concern. One should think in a serious manner. So in my view, this serious gap, 20%, 80%, 60% of gap. This gap is increasing day by day. It leads to so many other consequences in the country. This is a serious kind of problem. So the third challenge is the wage gap, just now I said. So wage gap, the 1200 rupees and 800 rupees and 600 rupees. Like that, if you take any sector, many sectors, so this gap is there. Consistently maintaining, especially in the Indian context, in the different, the job sector, this has to be reduced. So the 20 to 30%, the less than men, and this should be addressed properly. And limited access to the property ownership. Still in the society, the properties, majority of the properties in the men. Okay, see, they are not even giving the equal share to the the female. So this is a serious kind of gap. This has to be addressed. We talk so many things on paper and policies, but ground level implementation is a serious and biggest challenge in the present day context, especially in India. And credit and entrepreneurship opportunities also very less. So nobody trusts, many people, they won't trust, the woman, gender, because of the societal sentiments. This is a serious kind of problem. They are not getting credit, they are not getting not being promoted as an entrepreneur. These are all ground level practical challenges, and some kind of serious kind of policies for execution and implementation is very, very important in the present day context. The fifth challenge is the safety and mobility. This is a serious kind of concern because the transport place and working place and job choices and freedom of movement and some kind of the motivation, some kind of special concessions to be given to the women, so that the women empowerment definitely will achieve in a maximum extent within the another 10 to 20 years. It's a big kind of the time required, especially in the Indian context, to transform from present stage to the intended stage of what we are expecting everyone. So no doubt this particular conference will give so many insights for the policies and especially the gender equity in urban India, and many challenges are there apart from this female. Even the urban India definitely is going to face a serious kind of problems by 2050 if you are not prepared to plan in a excellent way. So it's a great kind of challenge to all the planners and all the policy makers to plan according to the intended or expected demand by 2040. Anyway, we are all focusing on Vikasit Bharat by 2047. In that process, we will achieve the $30 trillion economy what we are expecting. So for that, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of the preparedness and this workforce and employment opportunities also will get maximum extent in the next 20 years. And youth is the asset for the India. For 60 less than the more than 60% of the youth less than 35% of age. So this youth definitely is a great kind of productive for the Indian context, and in the different fields many job opportunities also will come. It will contribute a lot for the achieving 2040 Vikasit Bharat concept. And just now Professor Srinagesh was telling that almost 10 to 12 states participants, they submitted papers for this particular conference, and I hope this conference is going to be a great kind of success. Some kind of substantial deliberations and discussions should take place, and ultimately some kind of the outcomes should come from this particular conference, because we are following the outcome based education system. All the time I am insisting and requesting all the eminent personalities and faculty members, see, when you conduct some program, some outcome should be there. So namesake conducting, there is no meaning at all. So in my view, based on the deliberations and discussions and based on the papers, whatever the research carried out in this particular area will provide a fruitful kind of insights for the betterment of this gender equity in India. Gender means not only women, and many aspects also will come into picture. So all the aspects, some kind of solutions we are expecting from this conference. I appreciate all these three organizations for coming forward and jointly organizing such a wonderful program for the sake of all our stakeholders. So thank you one and all. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you very much, sir, for highlighting various aspects regarding gender equity in urban India. As a token of respect and appreciation, we would like to honor our Honorable Vice Chancellor. May I request the dignitaries to kindly present the memento? It's my honor to felicitate Professor B.K. Pandey, sir, from Arun Jaitley National Institute of Finance Management.
Dear friends, as our Vice Chancellor is having an important meeting, so sir will be leaving. So thank you, sir, for your gracious presence for this inaugural function, and we are always indebted to you, sir, for your constant support and encouragement which the RCUES has been getting, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
of the inaugural session. It's my honor to invite Professor B.K. Pandey, sir, from Arun Jaitley National Institute of Financial Management to address the gathering. Sir, we look forward for hearing your valuable perspectives.
Thank you. Namaskar and good morning to all of you. First of all, my sincere regards to Professor Kumar Molugaram Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor, who just left because of some urgent meeting. Professor Dr. P.P. Anil Kumar, Chairman, Center of Excellence in Urban Design, NIT Calicut. Professor B. Nagesh, Director, Regional Center for Urban and Environment Studies. Dr. Jaitley, Associate Professor, my colleague, and faculty in charge of Gender Responsive Budgeting Center at Arun Jaitley National Institute of Financial Management. Distinguished faculty members, scholars, policy makers, esteemed participants, it is a great privilege and pleasure to stand before you at this national conference on gender equity and urban India policy planning and public finance, jointly organized by three institutions: Center for Urban and Environment Studies, my institute, AJNIFM, and the Center for Excellence in Urban Design, NIT Calicut. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to this center and University of Osmania and my director Praveen Kumar, AJNIFM, for his support, and I appreciate from my heart Professor B. Nagesh for taking this initiative to organize this important conference on the theme that is both timely and significant in the context of India's rapidly evolving urban landscape. Before I proceed further, let me briefly place in context the institution I represent, that is AJNIFM. AJNIFM, that is Arun Jaitley National Institute of Financial Management, is a premier training and research institute functioning under the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. The institute plays an important role in capacity building, research and policy dialogue in the areas of public finance, financial management, governance and public policy. One of the emerging areas where the institute has increasingly focused its attention is the intersection of public finance with social equity and inclusive development, particularly gender equity. Allow me, therefore, to briefly share the context of AJNIFM's association with the promotion of gender equity through public finance and governance framework. Since 2016, our institute has been designated as one of the central nodal center for gender responsive budgeting by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. In this capacity, we have been actively engaged in promoting the idea that public budget should be analyzed through a gender lens so that the development policies and programs ensure equitable outcome for women and men. Over the years, our institute has collaborated with several academic institutions, state governments and central ministries to promote awareness and capacity building on gender responsive budgeting and gender sensitive public policy framework. In recent years, for example, we have partnered with institutions such as Anna University, Chennai, Nikmar University, Pune, Women in Agriculture Institute at Bhubaneswar, Kumar University, Nainital, state and central government ministries to advance the agenda of gender equity and women's empowerment through public finance mechanism. A significant milestone in this journey came in 2024 when, under the leadership of our present director, Mr. Praveen Kumar, we established a full-fledged Center for Gender Responsive Budgeting, and Madam Dr. Jaitley, she is the faculty in charge for that center, who is representing that center here. The center aims to further strengthen research, policy dialogue and training in the area of gender equity through equitable and efficient allocation of public resources. Since then, we have organized several conferences, capacity building programs focusing on inclusive growth, women's empowerment and financial inclusion. That is our main, agenda, that how through economic empowerment, through financial inclusion, women can be made. Like one question arises, why gender responsive budgeting? Why gender? Why bring gender? We have to look finance also from a gender prism or gender lens, because in a public, wherever there is a public fund allocation or utilization of public fund, the fund should go equally to all genders. And because there is a gender inequality, that's why there is a special need to see that wherever public funds are allocated or utilized, we have to see whether that fund is reaching to every gender or not. So that is the idea of gender budgeting. So gender budgeting is not the sole concern of only Department of Women and Child Development, but it is a concern of every department or every university. For example, in this university, we just came to know that how Vice Chancellor is trying to promote gender equity through, seeing that the number of posts, number of administrative positions go to, they are equally distributed among the genders. So that is the idea, and that idea we have also, tried to implement or to promote through our center. Interestingly, the idea for this conference was first discussed during a training of trainers program on gender budgeting organized last year by UN Women and the Ministry of Women and Child Development. And during this program, Professor Vijaya, from this Center for Urban Development and Environment, she happened to be there, and Dr. Jaitley was there, and I was also present. And we thought, why not organize something on gender budgeting, gender equity in city like Hyderabad, So that is how this, after several rounds of discussion and collaborative planning, the idea has finally taken shape in the form of this national conference, for which I must thank Dr. Nagesh, who has taken all the pains to, and single-handedly he has, prepared all the tracks and the different formats of this program. So we really acknowledge your, endeavor for, yes, we must, as pointed by Dr. Vice Chancellor and also Dr. Nagesh, that as India becomes increasingly urbanized, like we are seeing that 40% or 50% of the population will live in cities in coming years, planning and service governance delivery in urban areas requires or acquires new dimension. Issues such as urban safety, which is going to be discussed, access to housing, mobility, infrastructure design, with the center, Dr. Anil is concerned, financial inclusion, all have a strong gender implication. Therefore, it is essential that urban policy framework, planning process and public finance allocation incorporate gender perspective in a systematic and meaningful manner. I am confident that research presentation, policy discussion and academic deliberation during this conference will generate valuable insights and actionable recommendations for strengthening gender equity and justice in urban governance. At our institute, we strongly believe that capacity building is one of the most effective tools for institutional change. In this spirit, we have recently integrated sessions on gender equity and gender responsive budgeting into most of our training programs. So whenever we conduct our training program, one of the sessions is about gender equity or gender responsive budgeting. That is how we have looked at disseminating the idea of gender equity. These programs aim to sensitize civil servants, policy practitioners about the importance of incorporating gender perspective into planning, budgeting and program implementation. Our objective is to ensure that future development strategies, both at national and regional levels, reflect a strong commitment to gender inclusion and equity. Let me also assure you that our institute remains committed to engaging with universities, research institutions, centers like urban and environmental studies to advance the gender agenda further. Collaborative platforms such as this conference demonstrate how academia, policy institutions, government organizations can work together to address complex development challenges. I sincerely hope that the collaboration during this conference will generate meaningful insights, strengthen collaborative networks, and contribute to policy innovations to promote gender equity in urban India. Once again, I extend a very warm welcome to all distinguished participants, and I wish the conference a great success and enriching deliberations, and I hope to interact more with you during the conference, during tea time and other occasions. So thank you very much for providing us this platform to share some of our ideas about promoting gender equity. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful addressing and highlighting the various aspects regarding urban budgeting. It gives me great pleasure to announce a book release ceremony. I now invite Professor P. Anil Kumar, sir, from National Institute of Technology, Calicut, to share his thoughts with the gathering. Sir, we are honored to have you here.
One and all. Professor Kumar, Molugaram, Vice Chancellor, Osmania University, in absence. Professor B.K. Pandey from Arun Jaitley National Institute of Financial Management. Srinagesh, Director, RCUES. My dear participants and other guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of this conference where a very relevant topic is attempted to be addressed. I call it attempted to be addressed because we have been doing these attempts for quite a long time now. We have been hope that things will improve. And I represent the Center of Excellence in Urban Planning and Design at NIT Calicut, which is one of the creations of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in the year 2024 per se, after a competitive selection process based on a declaration of the Honorable Finance Minister in the budget of 2022, where she said, to spearhead the urban development process of the country on appropriate track, we intend to create 4 centers of excellence in urban planning and design in different corners of the country, and through a very long process of screening, selecting, 4 of us were identified as the 4 COEs in urban planning and design. For North India, it is School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi. For Western India, it is Center of CEPT, Ahmedabad. And for Eastern India, it is IIT Kharagpur. And for South India, it is NIT Calicut. They have given us each 250 crores as an endowment, and the center will work for 25 years. And my first purpose of this talk is to let you know what the center stands for. This center has a basic mandate of across all southern states, nearly 8 of them, to help the states in capacity building. In the process, we are hand-holding with various agencies, including RCUES. We have met many times earlier, where we have jointly organized programs, capacity building programs for urban planning professionals. And as you must be knowing, this is a very important part of the government functionary, central government, because through the budget, nearly 1.5 lakh crore rupees is spent every year on urban development. Our Vice Chancellor has been telling us the figures, the numbers of urban population that India would touch by 2050, which is approximately more than 80 crores, which means a substantial part of Indian population will stay in urban areas. And for us to be prepared in this process, we need to ramp up, reinvent, reconstruct, redevelopment our urban projects, urban infrastructure, especially for Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Tier 1 cities are almost gone out of our control. You take Bombay or Delhi, Delhi's air pollution, you take for example. You have no means to control it now. And all these cities including Hyderabad is on a run up to something similar, unless we take control of things. So in order to regulate urban development as a very important process and part of the country's development, Ministry anticipated to dig the brains of some of the higher institutes of learning, and that's how the center came into existence. And as part of this, we keep giving capacity building program or training program to various urban development professionals who are part of town planning departments, urban local bodies, development authorities, mayors, councillors, elected representatives of the various kind. Because it is important that they all behave informed when it comes to regulating, controlling, taking part in urban development projects. And gender equity is an important part of the same that we plan henceforth. We have been trying to do it, and of course, as between rural and urban India, there is a lot of difference, but we are not yet at the destination, so I think this trend, this impetus should continue to be there for a long time. So one is training that we take part in. Second is we support states in implementing certain projects, all urban development related projects. As you must be knowing, MOHUA runs a number of missions. Smart City mission is by MOHUA, Swachh Bharat mission is by MOHUA, Amrut is by MOHUA, PM Swamiti is by MOHUA, PMAY is by MOHUA. So in the sector of improving sanitation or bettering urban infrastructure for mid-level Tier 1 cities or helping the street vendors, there are a range of programs which MOHUA continuously funds, and in all these efforts, it is important that the technical input is updated and state of the art. That's probably one reason why they want us to take part in this training, as well as in supporting various projects that states are asked to take up on behalf of the center. Much of the support, monetary support for many of the projects that I mentioned comes from Government of India. We also help various agencies in research projects connected to urban development. If you think a particular research idea is worth trying, and support to the tune of 10 to 20, 30 lakhs is what is lacking to realize the same thing. Provided there is somebody to implement it, we support it. there is a ULB partner expected to be there in the proposal itself who will implement your research idea. It's not the research that rests in reports, which probably many other funding agencies normally look at. We always want an implementing partner, and the partner mostly should be a urban local body. They are ready to implement your idea means your idea has something worth implementing, and then we fund it. And the last sector where we support is in offering some of the regular academic programs. Right now we are offering a program called URTP, which is a hybrid program. Halfway it is offline. You will come to one of the destinations, attend a few days classes to 3 days. Then some rest of the classes it will be online, and then you get a diploma in about 6 months' time, which is given by MOHUA, and the convocation is promised to be held in Delhi, somewhere in Vigyan Bhavan, and all the promise. So right now all 4 of us are in the process of offering URTP phase 2 as well. So these are the 4 areas in which we currently operate, and in training RCUES has been our active partner, and Professor Srinagesh has been a well-wisher and earnest collaborator in all our major efforts in this part of the country and even in Karnataka. We want to do more programs in different other states as well together. So we will plan it in future. Just before I close my speech, let me also as an architect come planner look at a few core areas where these gender issues actually can be looked into from a planner's perspective, or a person who is an expert on built environment, where all you have it lacking majorly. I think everybody reiterated the importance of looking at gender equality and all. But there are about 6 sectors where in urban planning it is a very obvious gap or lack of efforts in managing situations, and let me name them one by one. When it comes to access to urban open spaces or urban spaces or even urban infrastructure, it's never the same for men and women, even in our urban areas. I think our urban areas, the day our urban areas remain equally safe to women for all their, regular trips or other kinds of trips as part of their work or entertainment or simply whiling away time, just like men. I think that's when probably we can really call as a gender balanced society. That is a long way from now. This probably need to be read in combination with the norm that the social hierarchy and the social practices in place also forbids women from, moving out, being like men when it comes to social behavior and things like that. World Bank says that there are 17 countries where married women cannot travel outside the home in the same way as married men. In terms of mobility, see, lately we live in a society where mobility defines everything. Whichever part of Hyderabad where there is better prospects of easy mobility, easy commute, I'm sure that's where the housing price is highest. Most sought after plots, most sought after apartments you will choose. But if you really see whether your mobility prospects with the metro, with the MRTs that you are provided with, or the bus service, or all kinds of, or the IPT, the intermediate public transport like auto or those kind of things that you use, you will see that therein it's not a very fair world where men and women have equal opportunities. Of course, there are quotas fixed in buses or metro, coaches reserved for women in metro, and these kind of things are there. With all that said and done also, I don't think in some of the deserted metro stations where probably nobody can see you for quite a distance, and such kind of design flows that would probably bring an insecurity into the minds of the women who travels. That is an issue. So probably in different capacities, all those who are sitting here, including me, would operate in future, and where probably this aspect, if we are able to highlight a notch more as part of this seminar, I think it's serving its purpose in part. So mobility is an important aspect. And you must understand that lately, at least in some of the developed countries, more than 50% of the commuter population are women. So they are traveling. And in India, you will see increasingly women are going to travel. So if your systems and infrastructure have not caught up yet, there is some more time, but we need to ensure that these are prepared to deal with women, traffic of women, equally like you are prepared for traffic of men. Safety and freedom from violence. As I told you, metro stations or parks or such kind of places, you will see that not every part of it is visible from some other part, and that is something, some vantage insurance is something that you can always ensure, whereby you see that the park becomes a place where people can freely move. All Western countries or even some of the Eastern countries, you will see that their parks are the places where people, irrespective of gender, frequent, they spend time, and they don't have an iota of fear on will I be attacked or will my chain be snatched or those kind of things. Basically because the equality norms have penetrated deep into the psyches of the people. Awareness programs are already, have transformed them, and then designs are appropriately evolved. For example, Singapore. I think recently there was a discussion about a lady, an Indian lady, who said her going back home at 3 a.m. after exploring some food district in Singapore without really being bugged by. She just wanted to check, am I being bugged anywhere? She was not bugged by anybody. So that's something which the Singapore government, which in many ways is a model government, is able to ensure its citizens, irrespective of gender. I don't think they would consider a seminar like this to be superfluous, something unwarranted, because things are already where it is ideally to be there. On health and hygiene, on climate resilience, when I say climate resilience also, you would say that though it is not totally urban connected, you would see that at the receiving end of the wrath of climate change, excess rains or thunderstorms or landslides or whatever we talk about, it's more often women who perish than men. Right? There is vulnerability on the higher side by virtue of the way we have placed them in the social hierarchy. So I think these issues also need to be, though purely not from planning or architecture built environment perspective, these are something of concern, but I think in the larger scheme of things, this is also something that we should be looking at. The last thing I wanted to mention is about the security of tenure aspect, where again you see that the land entitlement as it is given to women in general are not at par with men, and that probably brings a lot of insecurity. Again, a World Bank study says that nearly 40% of the world's economies have at least one legal constraint on women's rights to property. 40 out of 100 countries have some or the other problem. It's never treated to be equal. And the odds that a child is severely underweight are reduced by 50% when mother owns land. Look at the way issues get connected. An underweight child is a problem to the society, and that problem gets nearly halfway solved when women have equal right to land. So I think very strange things get connected when we look at gender equality in its holistic perspective with global data on hand, and in many ways India is a microcosm of the globe and probably a worse model of the globe, not a better model. So I think what you learn from the global examples are equally valid here, and it's going to be valid for a longer time unless we take deliberate effort. So I wish this conference all success, and I look forward to more opportunity to collaborate with RCUES, and I pray that this interaction brings up some solid inputs into the domain of actualizing gender equity in urban India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening address and sharing your expertise with us. Every successful event is a result of collective effort and support. To formally express our gratitude,
Good morning all. On behalf of the organizing team, I extend my sincere gratitude to all the distinguished dignitaries who agreed to grace the inaugural session of the National Conference on Gender Equity in Urban India, Bridging Gaps Through Policy, Planning and Public Finance. I would like to express our deep appreciation to Shri Professor Molugaram, Honorable Vice Chancellor, for delivering the presidential address and for sharing his inspiring thoughts on the role of institutions, research and policy in promoting gender-inclusive urban development. I would like to express our heartfelt appreciation to Professor B. Srinagesh for presenting an insightful overview of the Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies and the objectives of this conference. His remarks help set the academic context for the deliberations ahead. Thank you, sir. I sincerely thank Professor B.K. for this thoughtful address with an overview of AJNIFM and its functioning, and for highlighting the importance of policy and public finance in advancing gender equity. My sincere gratitude also goes to Professor Anil Kumar from NIT Calicut for his valuable insights about his place and a perspective on gender equity which enriched the inaugural session. I would also like to place on record our sincere gratitude to Shri Praveen Kumar, Director, Arun Jaitley, National Institute of Financial Management. Although he could not join us today, his encouragement and support have been instrumental in facilitating our participation and contribution to this important conference. I would also like to thank the organizers, collaborating institutions and the entire team for their dedicated efforts in making this inaugural session successful. With this, we conclude the inaugural session and now look forward to engaging and insightful plenary and technical paper presentation session that will follow. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for the words of appreciation and gratitude. I now request everyone to rise for the national anthem. Come back to the plenary session. Thank you, everyone.
Coffee తీసుకుంటావా చెప్పాలి బాగా చెప్పాలి మీకు తీసుకుని తీసుకోండి కదా టీషర్ట్ ఫ్రాన్స్ అండి అయిపోయింది లేదు సార్ ఓన్లీ సీఎంఆర్
गेस्ट हाउस Osmania University गेस्ट
లేకపోతే అక్కడ మా డ్రైవర్ చేయలేదు సార్ ఓకే నువ్వు పోయేటప్పుడు అక్కడ నాకు కలుస్తావు కదా పోయేటప్పుడు
Speakers for the panel to read out. I request Professor B. Srinivasu, JNU, please. I now request Professor Virendra N, SNDP, Women's University. I request Professor Baswati Das, JNU, to honor the dais. I request Professor Priyanarayan Nat to honor the dais. I request Sudhakar Pardesi, SPPU, to honor the dais. May I now request Professor G.B. Reddy Sir, the chair of the session, to kindly begin the proceedings.
Very good morning, distinguished speakers, delegates, experts, participants, and friends. This plenary session is being addressed by 5 eminent experts in the field of gender equity in urban India in particular. Professor B. Srinivasu, Professor Virendra N, Professor Pashwati Das, Professor Priya Narayanan and Professor Sudhakar Pardeshi. The organizers, the Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies, Osmania University, headed by Professor B. Srinagesh, Director, Senior Professor, and the other 2 partnering institutions, namely Arun Jaitley National Institute of Financial Management and Sangraha Center of Excellence in Urban Planning and Design, have chosen a very apt topic for deliberations in the plenary session. I am not here to stand between the eminent speakers and all the participants. However, in view of the necessity to go for an effective time management and also constructive discussion, I think it's necessary to have certain ground rules for all the 6 speakers, including myself, regarding the maximum time that could be consumed, approximately 15 minutes, maximum 15 minutes, not, in fact, anything more, because if necessary, there should be sufficient discussion from different quarters. So without wasting any more time and drawing your attention to the main theme, the gender equity in urban India, bridging gaps through policy, planning and public finance, may I now request Professor B. Srinivasu from Jawaharlal Nehru University to make his presentation on the given topic. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Professor J.B. Reddy Garu and other panelists, also distinguished academicians, speakers, and my dear student friends. In fact, today, it is a wonderful topic. The seminar has been conceptualized. Gender equity in urban India. Since been working in Delhi, I have been working on women entrepreneurship, street vendors, particularly in urban areas. So we have seen several aspects from the last so many years, and also with the relevance of primary data evidences, there are so many glaring observations we can get to. See, in the present context, India is experiencing significant urban transitions in the world. If you see, cities have been expanding rapidly, and new economic opportunities, new economic avenues have been growing up. With this story of transformation, it's like a paradox. While urban economies are growing and diversifying in terms of livelihood opportunities, the participation of women in these economic activities remain uneven and constrained. Still, we have been trying to discuss about urban equity and so on. Despite of rapid urbanization, women's economic participation in India remains very, very low when compared to global standards of 2023-24. As an economist, I would like to give some data. I'm sorry, bear with me, I couldn't prepare a PPT, but I tried to give some data. See, when we see the global average, the global average is 48.7%, whereas in India, urban women participation is 28%, whereas rural women participation is 47%. See, in rural India, the urban women participation in economic activities has been increasing. This surge is due to feminization of agriculture and other things. We have been hearing about feminization of agriculture and so on. And urban female labor force participation rate is also very low than the rural due to labor market barriers. Still, our female labor force participation rate has increased to 35%. This improvement is because of growth of service sector, particularly in the recent era. In the morning also, Vice Chancellor was saying about the information technology. Professor Srinagesh also has been saying that the increase in information technology and all, women participation has been increasing. And traditional gender roles often restrict women's mobility and employment choices. Common expectations like responsibility for unpaid care work, preference for respectable jobs and safety concerns affect commuting and work participation. See, understanding women's economic participation in India requires us to examine not only our labor markets, but also deeper social structures that shape women's access to work, access to resources and opportunities. Still, we've been thinking about land rights with regard to gender and other things. See, the kind of, International Monetary Fund suggests that improving female labor force participation rate can significantly boost our GDP and so on. Usually, we always try to see all these things. But if you see a kind of women workforce, particularly both formal and informal sectors, a large portion of urban women work in the informal economy, which lacks job security and social protection or other things. What are these informal economy, nature, works or economic opportunities like? You can see the domestic work, street vending, home-based work, waste picking or waste recycling, and small-scale business, and so on. These forms of work are essential to the functioning of urban economies, yet they often remain invisible in official statistics and undervalued in policy discussions and policy deliberations. When we are talking about gender budgeting and so on, the public finance and gender inclusion is somewhere very little is there. So while looking at some data with regard to domestic work, it is very skewed. 75 to 85% of urban women engage in household chores, whereas in rural areas, it is 34% engaged in domestic duties. That means 50% of urban women spend 5 hours daily on household chores. In urban areas, the share of women employed is increasing from 5.9%, which was in 2019. It is increased to 12.3 in 2023. As women enter the paid workforce, the share of women doing unpaid household work has gone up from 79.3% to 81% in some regions of India, particularly northeast states and southern states like Kerala and so on. So if you try to see, women in street vending constitute approximately 30 to 40%, in which about 10 million street vendors consist women. Street vending is a major source of income for women in urban areas. We have worked, both men and women, with the primary data, where in Delhi we have worked for primary data for my students' PhD. The glaring observations or findings we can see, like women are not allowed to do some kind of jobs in our state vending also. So Northeast states are having an exceptionally high rate of women street vendors, that is 88.5%. I'm trying to give PLFS data. This is all PLFS NSSO data and so on. So the share of women home-based work in urban areas during 2004-5 to 2017 and 18 has increased from 24% to 39%. That means it reflects urbanization. About 39% women home-based work in urban areas and 61% in rural areas. That means this home-based work, the women who are working at home, particularly BD manufacturing is very high. BD manufacturing is very high, that is 72.7%. Around 60 to 90% of waste pickers are women. In this, 1.5 million to 4 million engaged in waste pickers, waste recycling. But urban local bodies present a balanced picture. Actually, very recently, urban local bodies have given the data. They are saying that 48.7% are women, 51.3% are men. I don't agree with this data. Maybe because of this, maybe because of registered waste pickers or survey-based data, maybe. But normally, majority of the waste pickers are women. In the construction workforce, 7% of total construction workforce in urban India, women constitute. A vast majority work as helpers, carrying heavy loads, mixing cement or breaking stones. Women in this sector often earn 30 to 40% less than their male counterparts. Even it can be seen in agriculture sector also. Wage discrimination, and they are being assigned some kind of jobs, be it in agriculture, be it in construction sector, and so on. And when we see the presence of women in small business, it is increased in a very significant manner since the government of India has been given more priority to MSME sector. After 2006, the SSIs were known as MSME and so on. The small business has been increasing tremendously. Women own roughly 20 to 27% of MSMEs in Indian economy. Half the population are from women, but only in 2006 it was 2006 9%. In 2010 it was 13%. Now it is 20 to 27%. In urban areas it is 34.8%. Where rural areas it is 60%.
In the morning also somebody tried to explain all these things. At the same time, the urban India has been witnessed the expansion of service sector employment, and nowadays orange economy, people are trying to speak about orange economy. The rapid growth of information technology, retail, hospitality, education, and healthcare has opened enormous opportunities for women's employment. Cities like Bangalore, cities like Hyderabad, Gurugram, and emerged as a hubs of technology and corporate services.
So the occupational landscape for women, particularly for those with higher education and technical skills, the access to such opportunities remains uneven across class, caste, and educational backgrounds. Despite the fact that women participation is increasing both formal and informal, more particularly in service sector, that you can call an orange economy, which is emerging very new sector. And despite this fact that women participation is increasing in both these economies, women face some challenges or some barriers to sustain or continue the livelihood opportunities and so on. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Kumar, clearly explained that the sustainable development goals which were there, the goals we could not reach in the urban livelihood opportunities and so on. First, let us see gender norms and expectations continue to shape women's labor market choices. In many households, women are expected to shoulder the primary responsibility for unpaid care, including child care, elder care, and domestic responsibilities. Doubly deprived kind of. One of my students who submitted her PhD long back in 2010, she worked on women entrepreneurship. We calculated the motivation of women face some challenges or some to continue the livelihood opportunities and so on. The Vice Chancellor, Professor, clearly explained the goals which were there. The fact that women clearly expressed that we are publicly deprived. घर में काम करना है, इधर भी काम करना है. They have to work. Sorry. Okay. Just not in expectations. Second is urban safety and mobility concerns. Third is skill and labor market. This is very crucial for women in urban areas. And again, the migration. Urbanization is closely linked to migration. Many women move to cities as part of family migration or through marriages. Marriage is the main reason for migration as far as society is concerned. So recently, several policy initiatives have sought to stand. Policy initiatives are sought to then urban routes and expand opportunities like women national urban information entrepreneurship initiatives are there like stand up skill in India program to increase women's access credit and encourage business development. Same time, the rise of digital platform economy also Amazon has created forms of flexible, particularly urban company in Delhi. You see, urban company has been there in presence and majority of them women are. So a more inclusive urban economy requires multi-dimensional labor. Since we have been listening to all these speakers in the morning, the more inclusive urban economy requires a multi-dimensional approach. Policies must address structural barriers that limit women's participation, including unequal care responsibilities, lack of childcare facilities, safety concerns, and limited access to credit and skills. Let me conclude since I have got only 1 minute. I don't want to catch chair already given a warning to me. Yeah, since the other speakers spoke about it, as India continues journey towards urban transformation, question for us is how cities will grow, but who will benefit from that? Big question. See, we are thinking of our economy expanding, we are big economy and so on. We need to understand what are the issues there. Ensuring that our full and equal in urban economies essential the inclusive, excellent, and sustainable net. Future of India's urban development not only infrastructure, technology, or investment, but also on the ability of our institutions and societal norms. The more by saying the social norms to unlock the immense potential of women's power, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Therefore, coming ourselves to build economies where women are not merely participants, leaders, innovators, shaping the future of our cities. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm sorry I have taken much.
Thank you, Professor. Your presentation. We had more time, but unfortunately, now from Centenary University to speak on advancing urban finance. So we appreciate it would be.
Good morning. I will make it in 10 minutes. Being a job, point to point. Some slide I will skip. So, assigned with gender responsive urban planning. Just. Without that only process is the process of being human. It's sufficient because already done everything from the morning to vice. So what basic gender equity scenario in urban. So being a geographer, I have to give some points about the India is not up to date because of the census available data, but this can give the idea. If you see urban India scenario, almost 300 million population of urban population which is projected, almost 600. So the crisis is one of the cause. The critical issue which is from historically the blind or patriarchal society or other things. So we have to take care of the women's barriers like safety and how a particular type of education scheme take them that equally equivalent percentage, and we have them is you can see very simply what the first dimension is economic power, which we have already discussed. Until and unless we give the equal chance in the economic same values are not again the political party and is the economic participation. So economic participation in terms of the work by the women. So all because if you see the employed females in female sector, but those who are resident or invisible. So we have care of all the areas. Then only the value of them you can have access. If you see the development index, human development value is higher. If you consider this human development index, female with the male, and see only the higher, other all the SDG 3, SDG 1.0, or you see the value in India and compare 13. Actually, I feel not 13, it should be percent as the geographer, population geography, population composition. So these are some index. Then again, inequality in urban India. If you see the literacy in the form of urban literacy, female literacy 70%, male literacy. Because data is available, gender is available. If you see the youth literacy or economic participation, 37% in 1723. The participation in which sector? That is again dependent. The urban female participation as compared to rural, then the wage gap, women are only 3% as compared than the men or the managerial position only 10%. Again, the managerial position in which sector? That is important. This again 43 minutes per day as compared to the male only the on average 25 minutes. You can see you spend 61 minutes. That's That's why the other things, urban India is how such type of scenario. The crisis is how the crime distribution, the see the domestic violence. Urban space. This is one of the important aspects of why discussing. Their royal duty and you exist men and gender areas. So can we have four principles? compare studies of metropolitan. The classic. So when they compare all this, this is the method. So COVID on this houseway because now see the first wave, the house 32% of the housemates lost job. And how they why because they employ themselves get a salary that due to the COVID and sometimes the family members or stop or facility results of job but the impact is on housemate and they are not by the owner because themselves are problem. So the second was what are the impacts? The impact is the income reduction, the household expenses what they have. So then or not having a good food or long-term job and so again, regular case study show the again the slums where the females are working then water distribution, the water distribution and the high density, the population, then keys like the household mobility in the area and slums, the unique basket. And that's why I got clear. So particular the women want a double burden because they have lost the birth and into the domestic case. They are not by pay by. So such type of case study is only the housemate, but this may be with other sectors. So these are some application case study nomination. So I will be discussing what I want to say. So the best practices, what we know like the gender responsibility by the all case study and will make a unique model for the safety the unique. So Mumbai may have the safety local. So even international examples, Vienna, Barcelona, these are examples how we are taking care about. So these are challenges in implementing. So which are the challenges, issues, challenges? We have the implementation challenges, social and cultural challenges, we have those challenges to implement all these. But without implementation, it is not going to have a responsibility. The urban and the policy reforms, the representation is the mandatory gender diversity or the establishment like a mandatory consultation of the digital most of the restriction, most
Well, in fact, I am supposed to speak on the safety and justice issues. I'll make in the last because of the time constraint. Now, Sir Bhagwati Das, Jawaharlal University, to speak on health, well-being, social services. You would greatly appreciate on 40 minutes, ma'am. If you take that time, then ma'am, I think we can in the next few minutes. In the meantime, the next speaker can take may I request Professor Priya Narayan from NAC to speak on education skills, digital in the urban context. Next, we will follow by Professor Bhagwati Das in the media.
Session. I just do a little bit of data because too much of data, too much of presentation. Video that I want you to play. You can see. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor is one of that. Priya Narayan and NAC National Assessment Council. We are going to take 8 minutes video. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the impossible. Chairman sir, 8 minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do we learn from this? 8 minutes video. What did we learn from this? Did we? Sorry? It is impossible if we have. No, sir. Video. This is not an Indian video, but Indian household is no way different from this. So, women equity is not an Indian subject, it's an international subject. And when we say that, no, we are very, very low, somebody is high, no, everywhere there is a low and high. So let's accept that and start with that. The problem starts with the household and ends with the household. Women today, in many of the households, she has to do a lot of balancing work. So what you saw, that woman, she never sat. She was totally running around, stretching her hands, sometimes forgetting, sometimes, she has to pick up. And when you see, there are so many hidden messages in that. The first one to rise is the woman, and the last one to sleep also is the woman. Sleeping hours is compromised a lot for the household chores. And what will happen when you compromise your sleep? What will happen to your hormones? Already we have so many tantrums happening in our body biologically. And when you also compromise sleep along with that, keep that aside. She has 3 children. She has 1 male and 2 female children there. Okay? And you see that particular aspect when she was plowing the field, she is still plowing the field with 1 child on her back and 1 child beside. But the man went in the tractor. What does that imply? We have too many burdens to keep, but when a man is free, he is that the UNDP statistics that Professor showed, the report ends like this. India will take another 230 years to come to the rank 1 if it progress the way it is today. You and me will not be there. Our next generation will not be there. Maybe after 10, 15 generations, we will see us equal to that of Sweden, or we will see us equal to that of Norway. Do we have to wait till that? Do we have time till that? Our vision is 2047. Within that, if we have to go, what do we have to do? Look at the video, how the woman is conditioning her daughter. The entire video, the woman was running, and the next one who was running behind her was the daughter. The daughter helped her, the daughter helped to raise the child, the daughter helped to wash the vessel. So what do we do in our household? We keep telling our daughters, tomorrow you have to get married, you have to look after your household, please you learn this, please you learn this. Do we tell this to our sons? Do we tell this to our husbands? I will tell you, this video is no way different from what happens in my home, or if you are not speaking, I will speak for you, no way different from what happens in your home. So better stop talking, start doing from today. No amount of talks is going to help, sir. If you want to see a change, the words that speak is not worth. The hands that do worth a lot. Give the option to your daughter to choose what she wants to study. Don't condition her, go for B.Ed. Only teacher education is very good. It is a very easy job. Go for teaching. It's a safe job. Why? Why not aeronautics? Why not women pilots? Why not captains in the ship? We are not ready to take that risk, but we want India to develop. We want all, equity to happen. And women, please understand, we cannot blame anybody. Nobody will rise up for you, just for you. You have to rise and you have to talk. How? I will tell you this. First of all, tell your daughter that she needs to stay healthy, eat well, because the world is not going to change tomorrow. What we are facing, they will face, maybe in a little lesser intensity, but they will face it. So tell them to stay healthy by mind and body is more important to face everything that she has to face in life. So the first share of food at home should have to go to the woman, because if a woman is not healthy, the children born to her is not going to be healthy. What healthy baby you can expect when 80% of the women in India are anemic? So health is first. Next is about mental health. Tell her stress is part of us and we need to manage it. And how do you overcome with that? You need to teach your children first that. Second, keep the males at your home, especially the boys, and tell them you are responsible for half of the household chores at home, because if you want accelerated equity, that only a mother can teach through the child, especially the sons. Change has to come from there, my dear ladies. Third, if you have daughter-in-laws at home, please tell them they have to go for work. Because Udyogam is no more Purusha Lakshanam. Udyogam is Manusha Lakshanam. Economic independence is the way that a woman can earn her freedom and take the freedom at her hand, not ask for freedom from their counterparts. May it be parents or may it be whomever it is. And finally, when we are talking all these things and doing nothing, the dream stays as a dream. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for an excellent reminder about the multitasking and the responsibility of the other gender towards the women. And I'm reminded of a report of the UN, which was published in 1980, just one sentence. Women constitute half the world's population, perform nearly 2/3 of its hours, receive 1/10 of the world's income, and less than 1/100 of the property. 1980 report, I don't think there has been much change even in 2026. I think thanks for the timely reminder and a wonderful presentation. Now I request Professor Ashwati Das to make a presentation. I think the PPT is also ready now.
Yeah, now there is no time to waste. So it was in the track 4 and quite elaborate one, because track 4 says public, that is situating in self, that is situating in self. Self means in its capability and emancipation and everything. So it incorporates in the word itself the well-being. Similar thing was there in the origin of the word disease, where there is no ease is the disease. But because of our increasing number of local epidemic to turn into pandemic during 17th, 18th, 19th century during the colonial era, we started interpreting health in terms of only pathologically determined diseases. So by deviating this, the definition WHO has changed in 1948, where well-being has been given emphasis, and the definition is questioned because of that then health cannot be defined. But in this case, I have tried through my this long tenure of research on health, tried to define health in terms of all the 4 indicators, where majorly the last three are well-being centric indicator, whereas physical health is something which is easier to measure. And when we were singing, every time it reminds me, it is good that it has become mandatory for us to sing Bande Mataram. Every time we sing Ke bole tumi ma abula, that means who says you are voiceless. So to interpret, because they are living on an average 4 to 5 years longer than the men across India, across rural and urban areas. That is the sample registration system data showing, and consistently it is improving. The women are outliving men. So physical health wise we have really achieved, but does that reduce our suffering? So when we are coming to the disease prevalence, here also we can see that we are not significantly different, but rather in some of the cases like non-communicable diseases and other things, we are little better. But does it have the light? No. So where we are really worrying that gender dimension is coming in the symptom, signs and ill-defined condition, where it is showing 8.5% for the male and 13.4% for the female. Ill-defined conditions are often those which are not attended by any health professionals. That is why it is overburdened among the women, where they do not feel the need to take the women to the health facility. And when it is overall, urban area is no better. It is same thing which is reflected in the urban area. I have taken the chart as it is showing in the sample registration system. Now, psychological well-being, we are trying to work as a nation, but we really do not have very elaborate data. We have, government has started generating data 2015 onwards, and the next phase is also about to come, but it is mostly on the system, that is mental health system that is existing to cater if any catastrophic diversification happens in near future, and it has very little indicator on mental health well-being, where it has identified there is a glaring gap in treatment reception. Treatment reception means we are still not recognizing, we are not capable enough to recognize when to go to the doctor or seek treatment. But here the gender divisions are less done in this survey. Now, social relations, the third pillar is my major thrust. In this case, social means entire social, economic, other things. And when social relation matters, it is almost theoretically known to everyone that when, just the film also has said, that when the domestic duties are shared and encourage women's education or employment, it is one kind of welfare. And since morning we have very illuminating lectures, and in our university and this university Vice Chancellor also is attempting women's positioning to give them to making their passage to the higher positions, and it is good to know that women candidate dominate among the student also. But what after that? What happens to them after that? If they are equally skilled and educated, of course they have some economic aspiration. And Professor Bathula has already told some of the things. I will take little dip into this when we are looking into the time use survey, how it speaks, especially for urban areas. This is 6+ age group. Sorry, it's my mistake that orange should be unpaid domestic services and unpaid caregiving services, where we have enormous gender gap in the responsibilities. Whereas when we look into the economic activity, whether it is production of goods and services for own use or related activities, we do not see significant difference. Similarly, in learning, we do not see any gender difference. But after that, there is no outlet. And socializing communication also there is not much difference. Culture, leisure, mass media exposure is also not much difference. Then why they are burdened with that amount of household duties and services? What is burdening them? In this case, then the question arises, are they willingly doing that? Are they not searching for jobs? For this, I will little travel through different data sets. Starting from Census of India, we often talk about census is too old, but revealing exactly the same picture what time use survey is revealing. Now, when we talk about the sex ratio, which is heavily not favoring the female, but sex ratio among the job seekers are favoring female. All negative indicators are in favor of the women. Especially among the non-workers, it is 84 lakh male who are searching job in urban areas. Females are 1,23 lakh. Now coming to when we say urban areas are growth engine, and it has been already told that when we look into the reason for migration, it is marriage which is shown as a major reason for migration from rural to urban areas among the women. But after marriage, they do not remain housewife. When it comes to the job seeking among the among the migrant women 15 to 59, it is showing that it is almost 4 times higher migrant women are looking for job in urban areas. 4 times. It is really glaring. Same thing is, as I said, that why I am traveling from census to time use survey, because situation did not change. It has already been talked in detail in the track 1 section, but more glaring is that what are the jobs created? We have seen improvement among women work participation, especially in urban areas, but what are the sectors open for us? It is the own account worker and employer. Own account, as it has already been said, it is majorly the street vendor, rack pickers, so all low-end job. And why women are from the casual labor shifting to this kind of things? Because of their often little bit of, because of their improved education, some training, the business, small business they are taking care of, and they are unable to improve their participation in the formal sector because of their life cycle, which is so traditional till today, where they wave through different transitions from marriage, childbearing, elderly care, and other things which can be pictorially presented, that she runs between problem of workplace to problem at family. So it is good that we already have seen a film, so I do not have to explain all the component. Now, what are the restrictive factors for women to take, work outside home, especially in urban areas? The restriction or the violence against women starts from home, continues in the public places and spaces. So domestic violence is much talked about and much researched, especially NFHS has consistently started giving the aspects of domestic violence, so I will not talk much. We already have these figures available, but National Crime Record Bureau presents different sections where the crimes are happening on women, and when we see, it is really alarming that there is 4% increase in crime during 2022 over 2021. Some claims have been taken that it is because of the very good in their life. So what we can do in their life? So what we can do, I think it is already been talked much about the sense of how the urban space should behave. So it is how I have perceived through this work, and developing sense of belongingness. Hardly migrant women develop that sense of belongingness, or even the city-bred girls, young women are developing that sense of belongingness where they can use the public spaces, especially when we talk about, suppose open gyms are coming out in many of the city parks, and we do not see any young women taking that opportunity. Mobility for work, leisure, care, balance, because they take up multiple activities, which is a function of accessibility, affordability, along with safety. And example of Delhi and Bengaluru comes out because Delhi for last 7 years have free passes for the women in the public buses. But just day before yesterday, they introduced a pink card which in one swipe they can travel. The click in this is once you swipe once, for 60 minutes it is closed. Now women working in informal sector and changing 2-3 transport, their mobility is restricted by introducing this kind of card. So there is a catch in this. So her mobility is restricted through that. Promotive safety, this is very carefully selected word, because curative safety after the rape is done and then we are running for the culprit. It is much better to change the gender norm through awareness and other kind of program, and to restrict that rather than approaching a curative kind of safety through CCTV than the street lights. Housing that do not restrict labor, since that is one option women are exercising, where house-based industry, small-scale business and other thing they are running. So that also can be taken, and I have detailed how that can be done through different kind of how sense of belongingness can be improved, how mobility can be increased. Housing, we have the program in the morning session, it has already been mentioned, how Momo is doing that primary Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana urban area. They have introduced 2 sets of schemes for the women where they are financial assistance are given, where they can own a house through which they can run small businesses. Otherwise, those who are migrant, they can go for affordable rental houses near their workplace. So far, we have 97.3 lakh. It is from the ministry's website. They have said that houses have been completed, and hoping that these houses also can, if the mobility is so much restricted and they immediately cannot change the gender norm of household work and burden, at least if that can be eased through improvising house-based business, so that their education skill, what they are gaining, that aspiration can be met and their well-being can be addressed. That is our first and foremost choice. And some of the things are being attempted, but that is still very insufficient to address all the sufferings. So with this, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Das. I think so many statistics from National Crime Records Bureau and many other sources. Thank you so much. Now we have the last but one speaker, Professor Sudhakar Pardeshi. 10 minutes so that I can have 5 minutes.
Sure, sir. I'll try to make it in 10 minutes, but excuse me if I cross 10 minutes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sudhakar Pardeshi from Pune University. I have been given track 6, climate change, sustainability and urban resilience. Since it is related to gender equity, I selected the topic women in climate change, sustainability and urban resilience on the domestic front. We know when we talk about the resource management, when we talk about the managing the house and all other issues related to house and domestic aspects, women, they lead in the houses and they manage the house. So my point of discussion today, women can shoulder the responsibility, how the resources can be managed, how they can fight against the effects of climate change. Of course, there is equal role of man and women in climate change adaptability. We have to think of the effects which we are going to face as challenges due to climate change, and particularly water resources. Since I have worked little bit in the field of water resources, I would like to highlight water resources in domestic usage, and how women and we all family members can start right from our family level, that is from personal to family resilience. So my point, I would like to highlight with certain points here, like climate change and urban vulnerability. Then water scarcity, second, food insecurity, third, extreme heat and urban flooding. These are some of the points which are actually faced in urban areas, but we are not directly facing all these issues because we live in different societal strata, and many of our neighbor, those who are living in different strata, they face many of these issues because we have better shelter than others, and therefore we don't feel that extreme heat because we travel in AC car, we live in AC rooms. That is our social status, different than the other people living in urban areas, particularly slum dwellers and the people, those who are living all along the river banks or in shelters which are not safe. So they face many such issues. Water scarcity, again, we do not face directly because we have multiple sources of water supply. So my point is related to water scarcity and other issues. What is happening with this? Oh, this is jumping. Anyways, these are the sub-points related to our today's discussion. Now, I would like to start with the saying that like we had saying charity begins at home. Similarly, we can say conservation of resources begin at home. So if we start conserving the resources right from our household, we can do a wonder, and we can also minimize the effect of climate change. Of course, the contribution will be very little at the household level, but as we know, we can bring changes by using or by doing very small practices. This is one of the example. You must be aware that the lady IS officer in Chennai, she started painting the roof with the sunlight proof or heat proof paint, and they can reduce the temperature of household by 8 degrees. And this is one example particularly I have given because this is a small step taken by one administrative officer. And if we can do such kind of practices, obviously we are going to reduce the energy consumption if we have the lower temperature in the houses. Now if the energy consumption is reduced, then of course the carbon footprint will be different. So if we link small things with the issues, then we'll be able to solve many of such issues. So when women in action, if she is in action, she can do wonder. This is one of the example. Now household decisions affect the sustainability. If women insist in the house that you have to do this thing, particularly water usage, then energy consumption, and food, and daily needs. Whenever we are going to use multiple things, we waste a lot, right from food, water, and the other things in the houses. So we have to conserve all these things. If we start from the self and the family, then definitely it will increase to the society level, then the national level. So we have to take care of the resources which we use on daily basis. Now, women as resilience manager. Why I am telling this? Because many times, generally, if the woman or the mother or wife insist in the house, the decisions can be changed. If they say, yes, we have to do this, and if they start doing on their own, then definitely the children and the husband would definitely change the habit. So women manage household resources. This is one important aspect we all know. In the emergency, maybe you all have experienced that suddenly if the guests come to the house, the woman who is going to manage the resources, not the husband, right? So first responders to climate stress. If there is shortage of water, maybe 1 day or 2 days or a week, if there is shortage of water supply, women will manage all these things. So she will ask the children, she will ask the husband to reduce the resource use, water use. Then she plays the role of caregiving in some of the climate responses, like today or tomorrow, what will happen? We are not aware. Generally, in summer season, we face the sunstroke. Again, I'm telling, this is not affecting the society which are having all AC cars and AC rooms, but the people, those who are moving. So women will ask you to take care. When you are living house, she will ask you, maybe your wife or maybe your mother, she will ask you to take care. When you are moving outside, take the water bottle, do this thing, that thing. All these things, she will be playing role, and definitely the risk will be reduced. And that's how the woman is the manager, resilient manager, and the role she plays very efficiently. So in connection to this, again I would like to tell that she is resource manager. Of course, water conservation is one part, then waste segregation and recycling. Now the discipline in the house would be important, because the role has to be played by each and every member from the family. And women, they are going to train their children, as well as they are going to make habitual to the other members of the family, like segregation and recycling of the waste material. Then you can do energy saving practices. These are very small things, but you can relate these things to global climatic changes. How? I'll tell you. Now this is very common. Commonly we have seen several times, but if you think the last one, little drops of the water makes mighty ocean, small savings also can become big deposits. We know this. So every day if we start saving, I used to give this example in many of my talks. If you start saving 1 liter of water per day per person, you can calculate and you can do wonder. So it will be used for different purposes, and you can start using the same water after few days of the year. I'll tell how it is done. Now these are the values. You can check, particularly we are in Hyderabad, so you can check the values, the total estimated population of 226, and then the contribution, the distribution of male and female, and of course there are other cities also. I'm so sorry, just we have to check the values of Pune and Pimpri-Chinchwad. So my point is, if you start saving a liter of water per day per person, now how much of water you will save? In Hyderabad, 1,16 lakh liters per day. Okay, and if you start saving that, it will, after few days, again the same water you will be able to use, which you have already saved. And in this way, it will start recycling. So this is fresh water I am talking about, not wastewater. So wastewater also we can change and we can use for different purposes. And again, then the another point, that is disaster risk reduction and how women plays important role. Emergency preparedness, community early warning system and network. Then protection of vulnerable members. This is mainly related to the society which is vulnerable. We are far better than the other stratas of the society, so my focus is on those people, those who are actually vulnerable to such problems. Then we have social support networks. In many of these areas, women can work efficiently because she has some skills, particularly social support network and particularly protection of vulnerable members, because she has inbuilt or naturally she has the ability to care of the people, and therefore we find that in many service sectors women are doing better and will do better. Now this is one important area, that is spawn city, but this I will not highlight here. The only issues which at domestic level we face, that is energy efficient cooking. Nowadays we are getting the news that LPG is in short, okay, LPG cylinders. Then sustainable food practices and water saving systems. Again, this is slightly repetition, but I would like to mention here, in these areas there is important role of women. She can train the family members to reduce the energy uses, particularly in cooking, then electricity, and then water saving systems. We should go for different aspects of these. Now, the important aspect here, so far we have talked about the role of women at domestic level. The agency policy gap, women's contribution often invisible. Now, when you talk about the use of energy, use of water, their role, that is very tiny, but if you take aggregate role of the women in a major city like Hyderabad or Mumbai or Delhi, what you'll see, their contribution is quite good. And if you look at the recognition of such work, that is unnoticed. You will not find that a housewife, she is working 24/7 in the house and her contribution in saving of energy and water is noticed, because it is unseen by the family members, unseen by the society. So if we carry out such research, that how much of water is saved by a family, how much of energy is saved by a family, definitely the role of women will be important in that research. Then the second thing, excluded from climate finance. So many of the speakers told about the role of women and their work is not noticed. Again, in this climate finance, women are not involved. As the best managers of resources, I would like to suggest here in climate finance also, there should be the participation of women, and definitely they will do better. Women often labeled as vulnerable, particularly in strategic actors, from victims to strategic actors. Women often labeled vulnerable. As speakers told, you cannot do this is not your cup of tea. There are many things. But we have to talk about the role, how they can improve their role, and how the women will be accepting the challenges and will be doing better work. So that is one important aspect. We have to make them strategic actor. Then we know the last point, leaders of household sustainability. This already discussed here. So my point is, we have to shift the narrative from vulnerable to leader, and we have to give the importance, and we have to give the share. I'm using the share and responsibility words in different fields where the men are working and women are lacking. So in policy implications, I would like to talk about gender sensitive climate planning. We should ask the women folk to participate in this. Then training of women in disaster preparedness. Of course, they are having natural instinct of getting or sensing some of the problems. So those kind of natural instinct can be used in preparedness related to disaster. Then we should support community sustainability initiatives. Mainly, we should ask women to participate in this kind of activities. Then municipal policies can be modified as per the requirement, and we should incorporate domestic level efforts given by the women. Then we should go for inclusiveness in urban resilience, and we should recognize the role of women in the urban resilience, because as we have seen, there is almost 50% of the women population is living in urban areas, around 48%. So this kind of work of the resilience and preparedness is important. We should train the women folk, and we should ask them to participate in such activities. This final one, we know the homes are key adaptation sites for resilience. If we start at home, we can do it at family level. Okay, we can do it at family level and also at the society level. So with these points, I would like to say that the women are resilience manager and resource manager, and of course frontline warriors of climate action, because there are very important aspects which are directly related to climate change and adaptability of climate change, and we should also include women folk in policy making and strengthen the sustainability. With this, I would like to stop here. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you. Well, I think after hearing the 5 excellent presentations, it will be difficult to focus on the 6th one because of 2 things. The lunch is fast approaching. I don't want to infringe upon your human rights, a right to food. The second thing is, some of the things which I wanted to speak, they have already been covered. At the same time, I would like to say only a few words regarding the urban governance, safety and justice systems in the context of the theme of the seminar, namely the gender equity in urban India. Whether it is the policy or the legal system or the administrative action, ultimately it should be in the direction of ensuring justice. So let's look at a few aspects. As far as the urban governance is concerned, all of you are quite familiar with the 74th Amendment to the Constitution. Then the role of the women, the 1/3 percentage of reservations envisaged for the women. Some of the states, they have already ensured 50%. For instance, Kerala, where we have 50% of the women representing the urban local bodies, apart from the Panchayat Raj bodies. But maybe as the researchers in this particular area, you must have come across a report submitted by submitted to the government recently on something called Sarpanch Pati syndrome or Pradhan Pati syndrome, and this was accepted only recently in 2026, where they speak about the proxy governance, and you come across many women shown as the real elected representatives, but the real power being wielded by the men, whatever may be the relationship with the elected women, maybe the father, brother, husband, son, whoever it is. So this is one thing I think which has to be overcome by sensitizing the women, by going for capacity building programs, training programs, and by empowering them digitally and otherwise. This is one important aspect. Even with regard to the representation of women in the IAS and IPS, you will find that there are very few, I think about 20% of the women being elected as IAS officers and less than 12% as IPS officers. This is the latest statistics. And that draws our attention to the fact that gender equity or gender inclusiveness is a distant dream to a great extent. Then with regard to the safety also, the women's safety is a big issue. Nirbhaya may be recollected, the Nirbhaya episode of December 2012. Then thereafter Justice J.S. Verma committee report was submitted. Today everyone is talking about CCTV cameras, proper lighting, so on and so forth. In fact, for the first time the report mentioned these things way back in 2012. Probably the digital safety measures are in their place, but they have to be further strengthened. There is another important aspect. Constitutionally speaking, our constitution is not gender blind. It is gender inclusive, though we don't use the expression gender justice. Gender justice runs through all the three different kinds of justice: social, political and economic justice. At the same time, I don't know if you remember the name of C.P. Muthamma. C.P. Muthamma was the first IFS officer selected sometime in 1948, and she was denied promotion because she was a woman. And there was a requirement of giving an undertaking at the time of marriage. And in undertaking that, she would quit the service if her family life is going to come in the way of her service. She challenged the denial of her promotion, and ultimately sometime in 1979 the Supreme Court had to give a judgment through Justice V.R. Krishna here, because by that time the government realized its folly. They gave her promotion, but at the same time there was a reminder about the misogyny that is still prevalent in the government services. Even if it is seen at the highest level of IFS, just imagine what about air hostesses. We have a case called Air Hostess case, Air India versus Nargish Mirza in 1981, just 2 years later. And similar kind of misogynistic practices were witnessed. The ban on the marriage, the ban on the procreation of children. Then ultimately most of the rules of Air India were struck down or set aside. But such, in fact, kind of discrimination continues even today. I have a neighbor, and she works as an air hostess, senior air hostess in Air India only. She was saying we are not allowed to wear anything, like something which reflects that she is married, some ornament and all. Is it violative of gender justice? I said, I think certainly it is. But the service regulations probably want some kind of uniformity. And if the women want to wear, what's wrong? In fact, especially when unwanted attention is bestowed upon the women, maybe she wants to, feel secure by saying that I am married woman, and in fact, I have certain extra protection also. So you come across these things, and Right from CP Muttama, Air India, Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan. For example, you are talking about urban safety. 46% of the Indian women feel that they are unsafe. That is the report of NARI 2025, the report submitted by NARI, where Jindal Global Law School was also one of the partners. Right? If that is the case, how to make them safe and secure? Recently in Kerala something happened. One lady filmed another person and, in fact, thinking that that fellow was misbehaving with her, put it on social media. Ultimately, that other man committed suicide. She had to be arrested, released later. I am not looking at that kind of scenario. But the sexual harassment, not only at the workplace, but also in public places, is a reality. Somebody talks about she box. In Telangana, we talk about she teams. We have she teams here, which are working very well. And there are initiatives like that which have to be initiated and strengthened. That's another important issue. Shabarimala is an issue. Babita Punya is an issue. We talk about gender equality. And there was no permanent commission given to women officers in the army, in Air Force, in Navy. And it was made possible only in 2020. That's what Babita Punya is all about. Digital dignity. There is a deep digital divide as far as the women are concerned. Dr. Pragya Prasoon heads an NGO, in fact a group of nearly 100 NGOs, and she filed a public interest litigation before the Supreme Court last year. The judgment was given. She is an acid attack victim. The person who wanted to marry her, who made advances, when she denied, he threw acid on her. And in KYC norms, know your customer norms, one has to, in fact, blink the eyes. When she has no eyelids, how can she blink? Because of acid attack. And what about the visually challenged persons? So, ultimately in 2025, the Supreme Court declared that digital access, digital dignity, digital equality, they are part of our fundamental rights. Maybe Article 14, right to equality, or Article 21, right to life and personal liberty, so on and so forth. I think in urban governance, the digital divide needs to be effaced. That's equally important, especially in the government offices, or local self-government bodies, and elsewhere. I'll come to the latest judgment. 30th January, Dr. Jaya Thakur, menstrual hygiene, right to health was spoken about very well. I thought that they would be making a reference to this. Maybe, since it is recent and probably they thought that it's not really relevant here. But the fact remains that the menstrual hygiene, the right to menstrual health, is something which is very important as far as the governance is concerned. Forget about Akshay Kumar and in fact, the Jayashree Industries from Coimbatore who came out with their own machine and all. Fine. But the fact remains that if you read the judgment, Dr. Jaya Thakur versus Union of India, the very first sentence starts with this: a period should end a sentence, not a girl's education. They are quoting an American author, and how most of the young and in fact adolescent girls, they are deprived of right to education because there is no effective sanitation, there are no measures, no toilets, and this is where I think urban governance has to be strengthened. There are a number of other issues. We are talking about gender equity, we are forgetting about the third gender also. That's equally important. Third gender assumes greater importance. And third gender is demanding its own share in the governance and the, in fact, every aspect of social life, political life and elsewhere. Right from 2014 onwards, till recently, there have been, in fact, number of developments. We have Transgenders, Protection of Rights Act 2018. And we have certain, in fact, reservations also for transgenders. Supreme Court wanted transgender people to be treated on par with backward classes. National Legal Service Authority Act versus Union of India, 2014. They wanted to marry each other, but this demand was not favorably considered by the Supreme Court in Suprio versus Union of India, 2023. And even with regard to maternity leave, Supreme Court said, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, who was the Chief Justice, he ultimately went on to state that familial relationships may take the form of domestic unmarried partnerships or queer relationships. And that is where I think in service matters we are going to deal with these issues. So ultimately, whatever may be the policy, whatever may be the legal or constitutional perspectives or the schemes of the government, justice would be ensured only when it reaches the most deserving persons. We are talking about right against adverse impact of climate change. That's what the Supreme Court said. Are we really focusing on the present LPG crisis? What role the women can play in ensuring that our stove is burning, where LPG cylinder is missing? Now we are thinking about firewood, use of firewood. Delhi has already relaxed its norms. Look at the role of the women there. I think this is one area, I think, where we have to remember and strengthen the hands of the women. No stereotyped notions. In fact, Dr. Priya Narayan has made a wonderful, presentation. The multitasking which is done by the women, the inclusiveness must be inculcated even among the men and others. I think these are some of the issues which should fashion or design the subsequent or the future policies of governance to ensure that there is gender equity and gender equality. This is my brief presentation. I don't want to go beyond that. I thank the Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Kumar, Honorable Director, Senior Professor Dr. B. Srinagesh, and all of you for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I also thank all my co-presenters for making a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
I thank all the distinguished speakers for their enlightening discussion and insightful addressing. I request Hema Malini ma'am to provide and distribute mementos to the speakers of the panel session.
After lunch, during lunch we can have, sir. Because it's already two. Yeah, during lunch you can one-to-one we can have, sir. Lunch please.
Now I request Hema Malini ma'am to felicitate Professor B. Srinivasu, JNU. May I request ma'am to present the memento to Professor Virendra N, SNDT, Women's University. I request ma'am to present memento to Professor G.B. Reddy, NUALS, Vice Chancellor. I request ma'am to present to Professor Baswati Das, JNU University. I request ma'am to present memento to Professor Priya Narayan Nak. I request ma'am to present memento to Professor Sudhakar Pardesi, SPPU. Now I request Anupama ma'am to deliver the vote of thanks.
Respected Professor Srinagesh, Director RCUES, important dignitaries on the dais, delegates and participants, Namaskar to all of you. It was indeed a very enlightening, informative and interesting session because all the speakers have covered almost all the dimensions of gender equity, and on behalf of RCUES, I thank each one of you and for delivering a wonderful talk and enlightening, adding a lot to our knowledge. Thank you to each one of you. Thank you, sir.
One small announcement. We have lunch at the adjacent building at the guest house. So I request all of you to have quick lunch and come back because already we are behind the time. So my personal request, because we have the next session, a talk by the people from NIT Calicut, which will be very useful to each and everyone. Thank you very much. Yeah, be here by 2:30, please.